Today's video is a response to a question asked by our subscriber Carpincho, who says, "One consonant cluster I struggle with is RL. I think I have trouble because the tongue seems to be in the same location for the R and the L." This is a really good question, and I appreciate you asking. Expect this video to be short, sweet, and to the point. The RL consonant cluster is extremely common in Spanish sentences. While there are only about 260 words with RL in the middle of them, and most of them are fairly obscure and uncommon, unconjugated verbs may have a direct or indirect object pronoun attached to the end of them, and they may be followed by a definite article. Additionally, there are other instances in sentences where a word ends in an R and the following word begins with an L. Here are examples of all those situations. Feel free to pause the video and check them out. The RL consonant cluster is actually pronounced two different ways depending on the style of speech you're using: normal natural speech, or emphatic or oratorical speech. Now fortunately the pronunciation that's used when speaking normally and naturally has a very close English equivalent, so this probably isn't going to be as hard as you may have thought. As it turns out, the Spanish RL combination is pronounced very much like the English DL combination. Focus on what your tongue is doing when you pronounce words like ladle, boundless, middle, rapidly, badly, paddle, midline, and word combinations like and larger, said less, second language, second largest. What does the tongue do in these English examples? The tip of the tongue touches the alveolar ridge, and the sides of the tongue make a seal on the palate, just as they do for an ordinary English D sound. But instead of breaking the seal and allowing air to escape at the tip of the tongue, d, 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 the seal is broken on the sides of the tongue, keeping the tip of the tongue in position to pronounce the L. Dull, dull, dull. At this point, pause the video and practice pronouncing those English examples, and pay attention to what your tongue does. Spanish RL is virtually exactly the same as this English DL, and the tongue does pretty much exactly the same thing. Compare the RL in the following Spanish examples with the DL in a word such as middle. Middle. Burla. Carlos. Perla. Middle. Hacerlo. Decirle. Verlas. Middle. Comprar la leche. Cantar las canciones. Mezclar los ingredientes. Middle. Por ley. Primer lugar. Just as with the English DL, in the Spanish RL combination the tip of the tongue touches the alveolar ridge, and the sides of the tongue touch the palate, making a seal. Then the seal is broken with the sides of the tongue, while the tip of the tongue remains in position to pronounce the L. Dull, dull, dull. Alright, so this is how the RL combination is pronounced in normal natural speech. The R in the RL combination can also be pronounced as a trill when speaking emphatically or in an oratorical style. It's a little difficult to demonstrate this pronunciation with words in isolation while not speaking in an oratorical style, so for these examples I'll use complete sentences and I'll speak in an emphatic way. No te burles. Carlos, ven acá. Por lo tanto. It's important to understand that of these two ways of pronouncing the RL cluster, you don't just get to pick which one you prefer, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. You do need to use them in the appropriate circumstances or it'll sound weird. When speaking normally and naturally, you should pronounce it in the way we described in the beginning, and you should only pronounce it with a trilled R when speaking emphatically. Alright, this has been our discussion of the RL consonant cluster. I hope you found this explanation useful. If you've enjoyed this video, please give us a like, and be sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on future content. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please ask in the comments. I'd be happy to consider making a special video just for you.